Good afternoon. My name is Tomáš Pfeiffer, and I would like to welcome you in the heart of Europe, Prague, the capital city of the Czech Republic. A very spiritual and mystical place with the footprint of Franz Kafka, Gustav Mayring, Josef Zazulka, Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla, and many other intellectual giants. There is such a magnetic and invisible force. I would like to inaugurate our World Congress Health 2020 Prague, held under the auspices of the capital city of Prague. With a delight, I would like to invite gradually great world-class experts of TCIM, and personally I'm looking forward to their very interesting contribution to the Congress. Now I would like to ask Mr. Miloš Růžička, a representative of the capital city of Prague, the chairman of the Health Committee of the capital city of Prague, to say a few words. Ladies and gentlemen, dear members of the Presidium of the platform, representatives of the partner organizations of the Congress, dear guests and spectators, I'm very sorry not to be able to spend this important day with you in person. Thanks to modern technology, we can meet at least this way. However, modern technology of this internet broadcasting is not the main thing which breaks barriers among all of us. What really breaks them is our common desire to move the borders of human cognition further, and the desire to pass on the gained knowledge and experience to all people for their use. Neither for wars, nor for trade, but for a better understanding, for soothing our suffering and pain, and for making permanent peace in our countries and especially in our souls. I strongly believe that the World Congress Health 2020 Prague will give a message on that, a message which more and more people are waiting for. There are already so many waiting people that international cooperation and establishment of the specialized platform 2020 are a logical and right way. The World Congress Health starts right now in Prague. It is a great privilege for me to have an opportunity to wish your work and this introductory meeting all good for in person, and also from my position of the chairman of the Health Committee and the capital city of Prague. Cordial greetings from Prague. Here you can see the auspices of the capital city of Prague, which relates to this Congress. An exceptional situation requires exceptional solutions, and therefore we are inaugurating the World Congress Health 2020 Prague, whose main part will be held on the 11th, 12th and 13th of June 2021. It will be probably the longest coffee break in the history of congresses. And we believe that also the termination of the Congress will be very successful. What coronavirus gave us is the time for the preparation of the platform Camp 2020 Prague, whose establishment is the main aim of the Congress and which I would like to present you with. I will start off with explaining what platform definitely isn't. It definitely isn't any association of associations. For a further development of TCIM, I believe there is a very apparent need for unification of efforts and intensification of cooperation across all branches, and also in relation to evidence-based medicine, because what still misses here is a unifying space for that all. This is a unique project globally. Therefore, we cannot say this is reinventing a wheel. What we should do is to provide a common tool for all disciplines of TCIM, enabling a free and beneficial cooperation, sharing, and friendly support without any censorship, similar to the Wikipedia portal in a certain meaning. Now I would like to present you with the structure of the platform, and each member will receive an access to their unique part, together with a detailed manual and a technical support, so that nobody else could interfere in this part. Now you can see the home page. At the top, there are labels of the particular sections, enabling access organized according to the topics. The platform will thus contain comprehensive information on science and research, but also on everything which is connected with TCIM. For example, the legislative, educational, media sections, common and individual events of associations, and also the association of supporters. Here you can see the first section, which is the library. Here you will be able to place your publication activities and others. This section will be classified so that it would be able to search according to particular branches or specific associations, which will publish their posts here. It should enable the access to information like other similar databases, and finally it may contain a link to another database which will gain more viewers who will have an easier access to information. The following section is a very important section, science and research. It will contain the information structured according to certain topics. For example, the research center databases, magazine database, case histories, and all other things relating to this branch. Naturally, also methodology of research will be covered so that the members of the platform could aim their activities more easily to act in accordance with international standards. The following section is education. It covers information on education and the taught disciplines. It will be a global database of opportunities where you can gain education, at which school, in what extent, and also the form of the courses and other activities. This should enable the people, the candidates who would like to devote their energy to a particular branch, the access to the discipline. As we all want to help man, the following section is equally important. It's section healthcare. It will report the information on the achieved integration of TCIM into national health systems, including the list of institutions offering one of the TCIM disciplines. The legislative section will be classified into two parts. It will be both a collection of resolutions of international organizations like WHO, WHA, the European Parliament, and others. And moreover, it will contain an overview of the state of legislation of individual countries in which we all work. At the moment, the speakers of our conference represent people from the whole world, from Europe, Colombia, the USA, and I wouldn't like to forget anybody. Also, there should be presented legislative activities which are either ongoing or forthcoming. In the section media, we should together look after this area, both in the sense of communication among individual platform members and the whole platform. It is very important to inform the public about our work so that the public space will offer relevant and valuable information. So not something which is called a fake. I will explain to you another topic which relates to this in a moment. The following section is an association of supporters. We should realize that a relatively high number of citizens are treated with one of the TCIM methods. In Europe, it may amount to 100 million people, which is a great number of people. This also proves accessibility and importance of these disciplines in our today's health practice. The last section I would like to present to you with today is the organization of the platform. Here you will be able to find technical and organizational information, and we will be informing each other about projects which we could support, petitions or other projects. And of course, there will be also space for our discussion. I would like to highlight that the membership in the platform will not increase your organizational workload resulting from the administration of your unique part, which you will be entitled to access. You can place a topic and a link to your existing web page, something which has already been created, and this way you can share the results of your work. You can also release the existing publications. For example, that could be a link to your existing database. I believe that the time for the unification of our efforts to help the patients has come. I believe that we can achieve much more this way together, because conflicts weaken our ability to achieve our objective. We should be aware of that. To gain a better overview of this branch, our professional chamber has released a publication, Alternative Medicine in the World, where you can find the most comprehensive verified information on TCIM. Some of the information is very surprising. Here on the first slide, you can see that the information is sometimes very interesting. On this slide, you can see the information from the Cochrane database, which is a very prestigious database, which contains the evaluation of TCIM methods or CAM methods. and conventional medicine. What surprised me very much was a very small difference in efficiency, which was stated to be 7%. What was also interesting was the information concerning the credibility of the research, because the information in the last column is not as different as we could expect. There is also an important area of the risk for the patient. And despite the facts which we can sometimes hear in the media, the number which is presented here is quite surprising. The number relating to alternative medicine is 0.69, while conventional medicine is 7%. And this is quite understandable because conventional medicine uses inventional methods which are necessary for the protection of a patient. But this was surprising for me anyway. On the following slide, you can see a summary of the use of alternative medicine in some countries. It reaches 70 or 80% of inhabitants, which is a really high number. We can see, for example, in Canada it is 70%, in Australia 48%, and this proves that the area of TCIM does not definitely belong to marginal areas. It just shows that in the final result it brings a benefit to the whole society because it helps solve chronic illnesses and others. This is a good message for the future because we have to work on that. So this continues developing. Here you can see a map which depicts countries and the numbers of research centers. We can see that there has been a significant increase in the number of activities, but also publicational activities, citation activities, and so on. This proves that the right moment for the further development and intensification of these branches has come. The last slide I would like to present to you with shows what is very important, because national health systems are at the very edge of their financial possibilities, and medicine is developing greatly and has reached its highest stage of development. It's also very costly at the same time, and therefore its numbers are slightly worse in this area. This also somehow highlights the potential of the disciplines which could somehow make space for resources of evidence-based medicine in terms of financial sources and their development, the development of the medicine this way. Thank you very much. That's all. Finally, I would like to say that TCIM has a great potential to offer. And now I would like to ask all the members of the Presidium and the guests of the Congress for their contributions. As the first person to speak is the genome biologist from the University of Cambridge, the Secretary and a Research Director of EUAA, the European Association, the European Ayurveda Association. Let me invite Professor Dr.
Thank you,
Madan
Thomas. Thank you all. Thank you for this warm welcome to the Congress that I had hoped we would all be together in Prague, but unfortunately it's not to be. We are in an unusual situation when it comes to health and well-being and healthcare, and the fragility of our predicament and the state of affairs we are in is shown very nicely as why we can't come together. And this is not the first time in the past few years that we've had such problems. We've had viral diseases that have taken a lot of lives, and the helplessness of the systems of health and healthcare and education that we have today is revealed very nicely unfortunately revealed by where we are. There are many more such viruses and pandemics waiting to happen. The United Kingdom's high communicable diseases lists at least 16 different viruses waiting to appear on the scene. The details are on their website, and it is quite worrying that such things are waiting to happen. What is the answer? What's the way out of this situation that we are in, that medical care and health systems are faced with? The small state of Kerala in India provides you an example of how one might find an answer. A very populated part of the world, about 37 million people living, which is about the population of Canada, living in 0.5% the land area of Canada. And the density of people there and the dangers of such epidemics and pandemics is seen in such crowded places. Yet they have managed to contain the coronavirus crisis. They have managed to contain a Nipah virus crisis last year, which is an even more dangerous virus. And there are messages here for all of us as a community that best practice in health and healthcare could be anywhere in the world. And we should start to accept these practices wherever they are. We must be proactive in going out, engaging with communities, and learning from different communities. And I therefore feel this platform that is developing in Prague is going to be one not just for Europe, but for all of the world. And we should approach it in that style, to be inviting, whatever the system of health and healing be, to be curious, to curate information that's available to all of us, and to help grow this as health needs and health challenges for the world comes to us fast and thick. I take this opportunity to present my wishes in terms of how I see where health and healthcare should be going. And I present this in the context of the European Union, and a little bit in terms of a slightly larger vision. This is where the European Union is in terms of health and healthcare. A large part of the funding is being discussed and comes under this vision called EU for Health, a vision for a safer and healthier European Union starting January next year for the next 6 years. And the details are available online, and I think it is useful for all of us to find some time to look through documents like this. This is a document from the 28th of May. We were in the thick of the COVID crisis, and the President von der Leyen made this interesting comment that we will stop at nothing to save lives. And it goes on to offer a vision for where Europe wants to be. Europe wants to provide a model of healthcare for the rest of the world, which is very different from what is available across the ocean in America. And Europe feels by giving something of this nature to Europe, it is also providing a very important model for the rest of the world. When we look at the quantum of funding that's made available, it is not a very large amount. It is about 10.4 trillion euros.
Billion.
And there are different places from where this funding is going to come to enable this. In comparison to the health budgets for about 350 million people in America, this is minuscule. This is a fraction of what is the healthcare budget for America. It is within this kind of setting that the platform that is evolving in Prague is presenting itself and announcing itself to the world, saying where it wants to be, where it wants to go. What I found very disappointing in this proposal from the European Union is an aspect about health in terms of health and not healthcare. I searched through this large document, and the kind of messages that I could find here is where my pointer is right now. Europe is still lagging behind in how it should be perceiving health. It sees right now only added value, scalable initiatives. Health is still not appreciated as health. Health is still viewed as something very different. On searching this document, I see at the far end of the annex inclusion of a statement shown here: communication to promote disease prevention and healthy lifestyles in cooperation with all concerned actors. It seems like the large union is still embarrassed about the concept of health and to deliver health as something very different from healthcare. And I've coined this phrase, infectious health. And unfortunately, it takes on this kind of a state that seems like a conflict. And that is the way it comes across to a lot of people. Whenever you talk about health, health is seen only as something that comes out of healthcare. Health is not understood as an independent, given to all human beings. Health sits firmly within healthcare. And healthcare right now, as we have it, everybody in this gathering will agree that healthcare is nothing other than the commoditization of disease versus what we should be arriving at, well-being, which is the commoditization of health. And these are challenges for us, and I am hoping that the platform in Prague will point us and shift the narrative towards some aspect of health. What would happen if health were as infectious as a virus and did not know boundaries, which is what in fact it is? Health is open to all, health is available to all, and it has no boundaries. Somehow this message of health is not getting through across the industrialized countries, nations of the world, and also the older nations of the world, India and China in particular, where the narrative is still that of health based on disease care. And I hope this platform, in providing a focal point for the whole world to come and learn about other ways to look at healthcare and well-being, will also open up this narrative on health. And for people who are embarrassed about health, I would ask them to think about this as the commodification of well-being. And within that, we will have to develop new ways of measuring and auditing health and ways of preventing disease. How do we go about measuring this thing? Everybody wants to measure something, and only then can you start this whole process of commodification. What is it that's needed? What needs to be done? And what needs to be done to take healthcare as a new way of looking at health? Is there a way to approach this? Yes, it might seem there is now a way. It is starting to be accepted around the world, and it connects with the Sustainable Development Goals. And if we start to look at each of these goals, we might certainly see a new way of looking at health, a way of rearranging those big businesses to look at health in a slightly different way. Is this happening? It seems like this narrative is happening, and it is happening in Europe. This is the annual event at Gastein in Austria. It comes up with a very provocative title on the new narrative that minds are trying to juggle with. And the title says Dancing with Elephants. We don't know what those elephants are, but I know what they might be. And the subtitle says New Partnerships for Health, Democracy and Businesses. I feel the platform that is evolving in Prague should grow into being that catalyst, the important catalyst for enabling these new partnerships to show that there can be partnerships between businesses and health, not as healthcare, but health as health, and developing new dialogues and new narratives with democracy. What is it that people are wanting? We seem to have a disconnect between what people wish and what governments wish. And this is seen in almost every nation of the world today, and even more so in terms of healthcare. My wish and my hope is that a platform, a neutral platform like the one we are catalyzing in Prague, will enable this for the future. I leave you with this wonderful message that has brought about a lot of change in parts of the world. And I feel our message from Prague will follow this sequence. They will ignore us first, and maybe when our presence gets stronger, they will laugh at us, and there will be a point where they will fight us. And at that point, we know we are on the right track and we are making good progress. I hope over the weeks and months ahead, we will draw more audience to our platform. We'll be able to populate this platform with valuable information. Thomas already has one of the best compilations I have seen for complementary alternative medicine, which is already on Thomas's website. I hope somehow this network of minds from different parts of the world will start pointing more people to this resource. We will populate that resource, and we will reach a point where they will not be able to ignore us. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Děkuji. Děkuji profesoru Madanovi za jeho velmi podrobný příspěvek.
I would like to thank Professor Madan Pankovelu, which aimed at the very sense of platform. And now I'm delighted to invite Nora Leibstein, the president of the Association for Natural Medicine in Europe, a specialist in neuropathology, Nora Leibstein, who is going to give her presentation.
Microphone. Microphone.
Hello to everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Hello.
Hello. So, first of all, thank you very much, Thomas and Marketa, for your huge amount of work you have done until now. And even if COVID-19 now seems to be a little bit more far away, we will enjoy the personal meeting next year. And thank you for your work. And I think this platform is a good chance to build a public possibility for people who are looking for more information and even to be connected with each other. Because when we have before a start, I have to recognize that the presentation of the national governments in this crisis of COVID has only one aim. They say there's nothing you can do when you have something with COVID, or if you don't have, there's nothing you can do. You have to wait for vaccination. And vaccination is a big thing on the European Union, on the WHO program. So it's vaccination, vaccination. And this is one of these elephants Madan has talked about. And we have now to realize that even the idea of forming a good health was blocked by the media. So in this case, the immune system, to put the immune system into our focus, it's a global aim, and I think this is important. With this platform, we can try to build this consciousness. And therefore, we have seen the blocking media and the governmentals who are not willing to make a change in their policy. Even they ignore the demands of the WHO with a report, what's going on in research, what's going on in expert panels, what's going on to take it over to your program in the governmental. So this is necessary to focus on media. And the media has several parts, and therefore our organization has given for our members and also for interest groups, we have made a project. We call it Working with the Media, and it's it's a summary of the experience of Canadian and also of Spanish and also from US organizations which have the same problems with the media. And so I will now give you an input of this project. It's a strategy paper, and it was developed by the UNME board members and could be used as an open source guide for UNME members as well as other national CAM interest groups to start professional campaigning within the media according to national leads. The success is based on successfully campaigning on a national level. This is a very important thing we have to accept that every national country has different laws and different circumstances. So the first step could be a roundtable event held by a national umbrella organization which brings together several stakeholders of the complementary, alternative, traditional and naturopathic areas, including patients, practitioners, biological manufacturers, and institutions on a minimal common ground. Second step could be the implementation of a united platform, for example, in Switzerland, the successful initiative Yes to Complementary Medicine. Why this is urgently needed? Throughout the last several years, there has been an absence of attention to promoting the advantage and use of CAM within the media. In fact, most attention to CAM within any media outlet, print, television, and internet, has been less than positive, with limited attention at best to the breadth of assets CAM brings to healing and health system. CAM skeptics and critics are dominating the public discussion already. In order to change this, it is crucial to develop a common strategy which includes continuation of beneficial actions from the past, as well analysis and identification of any previous missteps. Accordingly, here are important discussion points, and probably this could be also for the CAM Congress database. First, previous common weak areas is research, evidence, science. Second, professional education. Third, cancer and other critical illness actions. 4, uncoordinated timelines. And additionally, individual organizations often advocate only for their own specific interests, and this can elicit aggressive reactions, especially due to different points of view. So, learning from one another, it's a great support and benefit to learn from countries going through similar challenges and seeing positive results by successful strategies. We understand that each country has its own challenges and legislation, but to know about positive experience helps guide future success. The following recommendations have been made. So now it's important for the practice to do work on a national document. Media-trained spokesmen or spokespersons can successfully navigate the media. Professional PR agency can do this. If economically feasible, hire a media specialist. Cost sharing with other associations can offset total costs. Collaborate with other partners in the health sector. Media documents should be created in the national language using native terminology. Have approximately 10 spokespersons, experts in relevant fields of science or medicine, with 1 or 2 speaking on behalf of each contributing organization answering on critical posts. Identify 1 or 2 country-specific issues. Hire an expert to connect to key audiences. Encourage members to be in greater contact with their association, especially to report or update on community or personal relevant issues. Develop spreadsheet to track positive, negative, and identify each story and allies. Create a video with statements and letter of declarations. Include a VIP person, a very important person. So we have to find this. So now this is a conclusion. Now we spread it into three areas. The first area is a strategy for social media, and this becomes more and more important. We have to go more on this way. Do not respond directly to the detractor. Furthermore, sometimes non-response is more benefiting pending subject matter or a delayed and diffused response, for example, after 3 days. Identify the key audiences, for example, patients, professionals, governments. Post information about the CAM professions, including who are the people of CAM, what are the practices, achievements, research, etc. Only positive posts. Posts should be brief, limited on 2 phrases. Keep answers, responses short and to the point. If slander is presented, focus posts toward the truth without directly responding to the allegation, and do not get into discussion. Another strategy seems to be available for print media. In this case, use a ping-pong effect, not infect, to create a letter declaration directed to the government, formed as a political paper, inclusive of research information, additional supportive documents to be included, encourage and obtain signatures of other interest groups, for example in Europe, underpinned, for example, by an enemy support letter. We have done this very successfully in Latvia and in Spain and in Portugal and also in Germany. So to create a letter and a document directed to a newspaper or a journal, first analyze the journalist and the reporter or publication and his, her, its habit and or track record. Are they pro? Are they against? Or open to possibilities for CAM and its professional? This is very important. Get in direct communication with publication editor and director. In this case, our experience is very clear. We have now in a lot of print newspapers, for example, we have an editor only specialized on science, and then you have a general editor, a general director. They are 2 different persons, and the science person, the science director, has another point of view than the director of the newspapers. This is important. Development of a serious print production about CAM practice. Now, the third point is a strategy for television. Best not to have reporter teams in workspace and our home or environment. If this is unavoidable or for other reasons of necessity, obtain final control and review of all content prior to public release. Roundtable discussion in TV, question and answer training, and all talk focused on the positive aspects of CAM. Then this is the basement of our strategy, and another thing is an example for a policy strategy, which is very easy to find. It's necessary to objectives, to look what we need and what we already have, and a suggested timeline and actions. I think I wish all the best to the database and the CAM Congress, and we have to realize that the definition of terminology is one, it's a battle. It's a battlefield, as when I see the programs of the European Union, they sounds very nice. They speak about prevention. They speak of health care. They speak of well-being. But when you go in concrete contact, they use this termination in another point of thinking. They use this on an economical idea. So growth of health does not mean that a lot of people were more happy and lucky in their lives and have more health. No, it means that we have a big business. We make a real growth of economy with this. And the next thing is the digital health. And the digital health is the next step, telematic and all this. And the German governmentship now of the EU will bring this up to the top of the agenda, because the regulation of digitals, the digital revolution now is the thing which is on the top. So I hope with this database and this Congress, we can give an important impact for all the next futures for this intangible cultural heritage we have in this field. So thank you very much.
I would like to thank Nora Laubstein for a very comprehensive overview. And we are just launching the platform, and the strategy of our media will have an important place in this platform. And now I would like to ask Mrs. Carol Ann McCracken-Holmes, an author lecturing the specialized kinesiology method. I would like to greet you, and I would like to ask you for your presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And thank you, Thomas, for getting this great group of people together and organizing this wonderful, wonderful Congress. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. How will you spend it? Will it be in fear and trepidation and stress, or in peace and love and feeling unified? Starting today, we're celebrating a week of International World Unity. What does that mean? How do we get there? How will you contribute to the unity on the planet today, tomorrow, and into the future? The unity for the world starts within each one of us. What role will you personally play? What role will your family, your town or city, your country play in world unity and peace? The very theme of this conference is unity, that of bringing together the various disciplines of health modalities under one cooperative umbrella. I am sure you don't have to be reminded about how stressful the world has become when we review the events of the past few months. Who hasn't been stressed when our very way of life has been suddenly ripped from us? These very abrupt changes in our way of being have created fear, emotional and physical pain, and fear of more pain, which is the fear of the future, fear of the unknown. All of this change and stress creates a heavy burden on the body, and especially on the immune system, which can eventually lead to dis-ease, disunity within the body, the mind, and perhaps it can even lead to death. The problem, we are lacking unity within the body, within the mind, within the emotions, within the total being. Where does stress come from? Can you buy a can of stress? Stress is an emotion we generate when an event occurs which we feel we can't handle. We feel it in our muscles. We feel it in our stomach. This takes us out of living in present time because we're worrying about the past or we're worrying about the future. We have a fear of the future. So stress is our killer. We spend a large portion of our lives living in this stressed mode, especially in today's fast-paced, challenging world. How do we get so far out of touch with our bodies, with our emotions, with our lives? With specialized kinesiology, we can gently and quickly identify and remove the stressful memories which are locked deeply within our cellular and within our muscular memory. And when we're able to do this, then we become more in tune, more unified, and then we can enjoy life, even under the most challenging circumstances, which we certainly have lately. So, what are your greatest fears? As a child growing up in the 40s and 50s, my greatest fear was that the Russians would bomb us and we would have to go to the basement of our schools for these air raid drills. In 1991, when I started teaching doctors in Russia, I found the most kind and loving people I had ever met. So people are basically good, and they have the same basic needs and emotions all over the world. So what are the fears that you have locked deeply within your cellular memory? We believe in our work that fears are mostly developed in early childhood, and we have thousands and thousands of belief systems locked deeply within our computers, such as I can, I won't, I don't, I'm not good enough, I'm too rich, I'm too poor, I'm too fat, I'm too thin. All of these belief systems create the fears that we have. And if we don't handle these fears of early childhood, they become our addictions in present time. So we become addicted to many, many things. We can become addicted to sugar, to chocolate, to people, to a place, a location, alcohol, whatever it is, because it's something we will consume, or perfectionism can be an addiction. We have to have that all the time. And if we don't have that, then we just have to resort to something to make us feel good in present time because of all that fear and pain of the past. If we don't handle those addictions, the base root of them, then they become our obsessions. We're obsessed. Will I have enough alcohol? Will I have enough perfectionism in my life? Will I have enough sugar? Will I have enough chocolate? So these obsessions then take over our lives, and the obsessions are our fear of the future. So what are the fears you have? This time in our history, we are facing our greatest fears, and they become either created or enhanced. Fear of death. How many people today on the planet have fear of death? Fear of the future. Fear of illness. Fear of people now. Fear of socializing with other people. Fear of another race, another culture, another country. How many people have fear of germs, fear of infection? If someone sneezes or coughs and you're out shopping, you go into a panic now. Oh, do they have the virus? Will I get it? So that is a great fear in the world today. How many people today have fear concerning their jobs, losing their job, not finding another job? How many people feel insecure today? So they have fear of security. Our children today take on the fears of their parents. And if the parents are feeling insecure, the children will feel insecure also. How many of us have fear of authority? And especially of trusting authority. You know, the authorities tell us to do this, and then the next day they change their minds and they tell us to do that. So how can we trust authority? And how can we find the truth? And whose truth is right? So we can't even trust our own authority, because today we believe this, and now that whole world is upside down. And so what do we believe? So we may have a fear of our own authority, in addition to fearing all those people out there who are supposed to be our authority, but are always changing their minds. So how do we trust? Who do we trust? Another fear, great fear today, is fear of cleanliness. You know, you must have your hand sanitizer with you all the time so you don't pick up the virus. I've had students and clients who have such a fear of cleanliness, the skin in their hands is deteriorating because they're cleansing so much. So how can we just balance these respect for certain things without having the fear take over and destroy our lives? Because when we have these fears, it takes us out of present time, so we can't enjoy what's around us right now. How many of you have fear of listening to the morning because it's always pretty destructive and negative? So, I have to turn on, I have to get the news, I have to know what's happening in the world today. But maybe sometimes we just need to go a day or so without the news. Fear of travel. Wow. That's a big one. One of my friends, his father died in Germany. He's in New Jersey, and he went to make a reservation, and it was over $2,000 for tourist class. So there are all kinds of problems connected with the fear of travel. I mean, we had enough fear of travel before we started the whole last scenario. But think about the fears people have now. Every time they get on an airplane now, am I going to catch the virus? And what are the regulations I have to go through? What if I get stuck in another country? And it's a great fear today, fear of travel. It takes us out of present time. Another great fear is financial, all around. Well, we have a financial collapse. What about the whole financial situation of the world? What if it collapses? How many people have that fear? How will it affect your business? What about do you have enough money to pay your bills? If you're locked down at home, how can you earn money? How can you possibly survive? Public speaking is a huge fear today. I had such a fear of public speaking, I would be up all night worrying about giving a 5-minute speech in college. And now when someone asks me to talk, well, what would you like to me to talk about? How long? How many days? We have a fear of going shopping. We have a fear of dining out. We have a fear of speaking, of censoring, being censored by the media, or what will my friends think if I post this? So it's a great fear. So we also have, I have a fear of technology, especially this morning when our server shut down. And so fortunately my daughter was here to take good care of that. So what are your greatest fears? And where does that leave you? Are you living constantly in the past or fear of the future? Or are you able to enjoy each day no matter what the challenges are? How can you really work with the fears? And in specialized kinesiology, we can help our students and our clients release stress, which contributes to the blockages, creating problems in many areas. We work with such areas as panic attacks, depression, fear, addictions, obsessions, anger, self-esteem, relationships, communication, coordination, learning challenges, hearing, public speaking, obesity, headaches, skin disorders, backache, exhaustion, accidents, hormone imbalances, and countless other physical, mental, and emotional problems. So we use muscle testing, which is like biofeedback, and we are able then to identify the root cause going back in time so that we are able to then very gently release through simple exercises the stress that's connected to the fear. And it just doesn't go away, maybe the memory, but the stress on it does, so that we can function positively. So now at this great time of crisis, it's more important than ever for us to step forward and become the dynamic leaders in this great time of change, regardless of race, religion, culture, age, nationality, politics, vocation. We must step forward. It is time to let go of our fear and replace it with a strong commitment to love, to help humanity, so that we can make the positive changes within ourselves, have that unity, and in the world around us to create those great changes. Where is our focus? Wherever our energy flows, that's where the focus goes, and it gets magnetized in the world. So if we're able to get rid of those limitations, then we're able to free our imaginations to create those viable, positive solutions to help solve humanity's great problems. So with that collective dynamic energy, we can create the most beautiful world that is wonderful for our children also to grow up in. So we can manifest it. How are you moving forward today? So we can prepare ourselves for dealing with the challenges by taking care of our physical, our mental, our emotional, our spiritual beings. And you know how to do that. So when you are in balance and unified, the creative ideas will flow. So let those ideas come to you, awake or sleeping. Let us be the dynamic force that helps to change the world. Can you imagine a world where all children are nourished, cared for, and loved, where abundance is enjoyed by all? Can you imagine a world where the citizens are all free to pursue their dreams in a world filled with peace and love? United we stand together. So let's create unity within ourselves, and then together we can say goodbye to stress, hello to happiness. Thank you.
Thank you very much. While I was listening, I realized one paradox. We take care of material hygiene. However, we care very little for our mental hygiene, which is the psychosomatic area, an important factor influencing our health. Thank you very much for your speech then. Now let's move on. Our next guest is a sociologist teaching at Charles University. She specializes in modern medicine and healthcare. She published a book, Alternative Medicine in the Czech Republic. Let me introduce Mrs. Eva Křížová, Associate Professor from the Czech Republic. I would like to welcome her in our program.
Good afternoon to everybody. Can you hear me, please? Is everything okay?
Yes. Ano, slyšíme.
Thank you. So first of all, I would like to send my best regards to all participants of this online conference. And I would also like to thank Dr. Pfeiffer for organizing such an amazing event and the next year Congress on complementary and alternative medicine. I will only shortly say a few words. I am a sociologist and I was working at the medical faculties, so I was close to issues of health, medicine, and healthcare. A few years ago, I organized a research project that was funded by Czech Health Ministry. During this project, I came closer to the issue, to the topic, and I also learned the community of some providers, both medical doctors and non-medical therapists. So I met Dr. Bendová. Maybe you will see later the photo of Dr. Bendová. Dr. Bendová is a medical doctor, and she is one of the founders of traditional Chinese medicine in the Czech Republic. So together with Dr. Bendová, we organized a small survey in 2018 on users of traditional Chinese medicine. So I just wanted to say to the international participants that there is research interest in the Czech Republic. There are some publications on alternative medicine. There are researchers who are investigating the field. There is a community of therapists, and there is also a community of users. So the topic is vital, and I think the Congress will contribute to awareness of this topic also in this country. I wish all my best wishes to this today conference and to the next year Congress in Prague. Thank you, Dr. Pfeiffer.
Děkuji za příspěvek a doufám, že se za rok...
Thank you very much for your presentation, and I will be delighted to meet you at the Congress next year. Thank you very much for your speech. Now I would like to welcome Dr. Peter Kath, coming from Germany, who is the president of European Ayurveda Association. I would like to kindly ask him for his speech.
Yeah, hello. Dobrý den, dámy a pánové. I will speak in English, so well, what is the purpose of this European Ayurveda Association? Our purpose is to promote and propagate Ayurveda and the dissemination of educational and informative material. I'm very thankful that I have the possibility to share some thoughts with you. And I heard a lot of things that I really feel they will have some effect. I will have 3 small points. I want to talk about words, the law, and bridges. Let's start with words. You know, lawyers are working with language. I'm a lawyer, and words are one of our essential tools. So I was thinking traditional integrative medicine, TCIM. What is tradition? Tradition is something living by a repetition that we experience. And we repeat something again and again. And from this point of view, Ayurveda has a really long story. If we talk about integrative medicine, integration means we put something together. Ayurveda does exactly this, the integration of all elements. We do not treat the disease, we treat the patient. We strive to reestablish a balance. Balance is called santulan in Sanskrit. This is what we are trying to gain. And now, evidence-based medicine. That is something I stumbled upon when I read in preparation of this meeting. What does that mean? Evidence-based medicine is a medicine based on facts. That is what you've been writing. It is something that is, well, let me place it as a question. Is it something different from TCIM? Now, what are facts? Facts are perceivable phenomena that we observe with our senses, perhaps expanded by technical means. But again, then, they're just there to observe with our senses. And now, what are the facts related to? They are related to the application, the means we use, and the result. We compare the situation before and after a treatment. From the observance of countless cases and my own personal experience, I can say, yes, Ayurveda gives results. Yes, herbal medicine gives results. Yes, yoga practice gives results. So, without any doubt, Ayurveda is based on facts. And I'm sure from this point of view, you will confirm that all branches we are talking about here and that you represent do the same. Okay, the law, my second point. We have a saying that to prove a quality, a capacity, you need to offer a paper that shows you are a doctor, a professor, a lawyer, whatever. Your medicine does that and that. You have proved it is successful. We have a lot of those papers in Europe. Maran was presenting one of them. And that means laws, rules, and regulations in Europe. As a lawyer, I respect the law. Well, and thank God we have them. But they have their limits. And they need to be supervised according to one-sided and unfair influences, and of course, only profit-driven interests. I see it therefore as to build a database is essential because we need to know what is going on. We need this information. We need the gathering of all the laws and everything that is connected with this branch we are working in. And now, my third and last point, bridges. What unites us? One question that was posed in your paper for this meeting. I would say we are one. Science long since realized the butterfly effect. And, well, music is about oneness. Yoga is about oneness. Ayurveda is about oneness. So, in fact, we are united. There is no need to cross bridges. We are already there. I would say we need to show, to display that. And this initiative, from my point of view, is a good way to start. Thank you.
Velmi děkuji za příspěvek.
Thank you very much for your speech, and I would like to say that that it demonstrates that we are all on one board. And when talking about bridges, we need to build one from a branch perspective, so that all the disciplines get interconnected. Now, I would like to invite into our discussion Amarjit Espamra from the United Kingdom, who is very busy and working on the preparation of the International Yoga Day in Great Britain. I'm very happy to be able to welcome him here, and I will wish Amarjit Espamra to have an enjoyable and successful event tomorrow.
Namaste. Good afternoon. I want to start off, first of all, by thanking to be invited here this afternoon, to be in the august company of such wonderful personalities that you have been able to bring together on this meeting today, Thomas. And I'm also glad to say to the panel that since the last 2.5 years, since I came into contact with Thomas through my very good and my very learned friend, Professor Tangaveluji, is that that I've had very amazing support for all the activities that I'm involved with in both parliaments, in the EU Parliament in Brussels, and also in my host parliament, which is the British Parliament in England. So Thomas and Alenka and Ludmila and Markita have been wonderful guests of mine. They have been supporting all the work that we are doing, and I hope that they continue to do that in future. And I just want to bring to your attention that there were some issues, that were created by the European Union Parliament almost like a decade ago. And the issue was that some of you here would know that. I think my very learned friend Nora is here with us, and she must remember that because I made contact with her at that time, 10 years ago. And I also made contact with Harsha Greminger, who is now been succeeded by my very good friend Peter Kath, who's also here today with us. And so the idea was that we wanted to bring about, the European Union's directive on traditional herbal medicine, THMPD products directive. So what Europe wanted to do, Thomas, they wanted to take out herbal medicines, from European borders. Why would they want to do that? People on this planet have been enjoying herbal medicine, for ever since, this universe started. And in fact, even today, the World Health Organization estimates that 70% of the world population still relies on herbal traditions. So without actually going too much deeper and diverging into, what is the root cause of this, and because unfortunately this is all to do with making money, and our friends on the other side are not really satisfied by earning something like 55-60 billion dollar profit. That's not good enough for them. And so we thought here in England is that how do we challenge this THMPD that the European Union has initiated? And so we embarked upon, this vessel. We created a platform to fight for our right. And we set up a very powerful campaign to save herbal medicine. And at that time, 10 years ago, I didn't have so many white hair. So we started, and that with the grace of the universe, very quickly we generated, sort of hundreds and thousands of signatures to petition David Cameron's government here, and to say to him that, we need to have our freedom of choice. If people can, wear what they want to wear, they can eat what they want to eat, they can believe in what God they want to believe in, why should you rule us to wreck our lives by taking pharmaceutical medicine? That there must be it must be option, here also. And so, the divine trinity of Shiva and Vishnu and Brahma, they listen to the hard efforts of all my colleagues here, and the British government actually did a U-turn. And Nora is actually part of that campaign that we started. Her signature are still on that, on the memorandum that we gave to the government. So we are very happy and we're very delighted that the British government did a U-turn. My learned friend, just earlier he quoted mentioned a quote from Gandhi. But I am a little different to Mr. Gandhi. And so I always say that, if you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. So we, together with, hundreds and hundreds of different communities, not just the Ayurveda community that I represent, but also Western herbal medicine and African medicine, Latin American medicine, and traditional Chinese medicine, Tibetan medicine, Japanese medicine. So this was a humongous task to get everybody together under one umbrella. That, I think, was really more challenging than to fight for freedom of choice. So nevertheless, we came together and took us like 1 year, and we succeeded, in our focus, in our challenge. So right now, if you're living on these wonderful islands in British Isles, you can practice Ayurveda. You can bring in raw materials like herbs. You can import them from India, whether they are in fresh or in dry form. So that is just like a very minuscule victory when you look at what's happening globally, what's happening in Czech Republic, what's happening in the United States of America, what's happening in Germany, what's happening around the world. So there needs to be a drive above and beyond where we are all operating, so that we are speaking to the people who make regulations. We need to speak their language. And we then, obviously from then, we thought, because I had some very good political friends in the parliament, we then went on to decide that if the West can do this to Ayurveda and traditional medicines, tomorrow they will do the same to yoga. Then they will do the same to other Indian traditional sciences like Jyotish, which is India's astronomy and astrology, which is used for health and healthcare. And so thereby we enacted, a very powerful group of amazing parliamentarians in the UK to bring about the establishment of creating awareness to the British parliamentary community and the policymaking community. And so those are the meetings, Thomas, that you have been attending, where parliamentarians gather in the midst of, you've seen something like 200 people we have at our meetings. The rooms are jam-packed. And there's much interest. And it's really elevating, really taking, if we're spending 5 years to learn kinesiology, if we are spending 5 years to learn Ayurveda, if you're learning a whole lifetime to learn yoga, now why do we then want to leave, why do we want to leave the policing of our sciences to some bunch of people who have no idea about what we're doing? So that is really, has been really my focus, and to really bring about awareness within parliamentary community. And I'm very delighted that, you have very kindly invited here this afternoon, Madam Miloslava Rutova, who has also very graciously given her consent to join us tomorrow at the International Yoga Day. So these are the right steps, to move into areas. And it is a parliament that will actually, at the end of the day, will make regulations whether we exist or we don't exist. And so we have to join forces. We have to find good friends to make all these wonderful things happen. And so really, I'm talking to you here today. I'm privileged to talk to you here today on behalf of the British Complementary Medical Association. And we have, a united force representing, the values of Ayurveda here in the UK and yoga. And I want to welcome, all the representatives who are here, and all the panel that have gathered here. And each one of you, I want to wish you tons of luck in your good endeavors. And I warmly extend all of you an invitation after the pandemic is over to please visit us, to come and see what we're doing in the British Parliament, and to come and see what we're doing in the European Union Parliament. And so you can gauge and you can get some ideas how, it's a long journey. And, as we all say, it begins with one, with one step. So we're on the right path. And more and more parliamentarians are beginning to listen to us because their own, for example, in England, we have a population of 70 million people, and of which 35% want to consider having traditional medical care. But we are one of those very lucky countries in the world where access to healthcare is free. We don't pay anything to anybody. It's free. So despite the fact that 70 million people have access to healthcare free, people still want to pay like 50 pounds, 50 euros, 100 euros, 200 euros to go and have an Ayurveda consultation, to have a kinesiology consultation, to have a shiatsu consultation, to have a Reiki treatment. And they are glad to pay for that because people of this country know that the allopathic medicine is not working. So I invite all of you, when you have when you feel it's appropriate for you, to please come and see the work that we've done and the work we're doing. And tomorrow we have a 5-hour webinar on Zoom from 12 o'clock in the afternoon British time to 5 o'clock in the evening, where if you join us, you will actually witness British parliamentarians joining and promoting yoga and promoting the ancient spiritual values of India. And you will see other stakeholders doing the same. It's been a long journey, but I'm fascinated and I'm very excited, to be amongst those people, who are making things happen for us. They have no idea about healing. They have no idea about herbal traditions. But the question is, how do we actually make them understand that we are like normal people? We also like to have ice cream. But what we can give you is something that you talk about, but you don't do it, which is prevention is better than cure. So thank you so much, for this wonderful opportunity to be with all of you. And I look forward to your support and your continued guidance and all of your blessings to the success that the traditional medicines deserve on this planet. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm.
I would like to thank Amarjit Asbarma for his speech. Amarjit Asbarma has done so much effort on the field of opening opportunities for Ayurveda and our other disciplines. And I believe that we will be also equally successful in creating something similar, like a parliamentary group, like this is happening in the British Parliament. Thanks to generous Amarjit's invitation, I had an opportunity to visit the UK Parliament and to sit in the upper chamber of the Parliament and experience these beautiful events. Amarjit has also organized a petition for which he is collecting signatures. And I would also like to mention that I initiated it here in the Czech Republic It gained 40,000 signatures, and it was discussed by the Chamber of Deputies. The statement was related to health and education, and the same steps are being taken on the same journey. I wish you all success and luck in your event, Majid. Now I would like to welcome another guest of our panel. It is Mrs. Professor Dr. Anna Strunecka, coming from the Czech Republic. She is an educationalist, researcher, published, and author, and former professor at Charles University in Prague. I would like to invite you to give your speech. Dear Mr. President, dear members of the Presidium, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, I consider it my duty to thank especially Mr. Tomáš Pfeiffer for his activities for the realization of the World Health Congress in Prague. My thanks and admiration belong especially to his whole life effort for the promotion and recognition of traditional complementary and integrative medicine in the EU and the whole world. Also, Dr. Associate Professor Eva Křížová thanked Tomáš Pfeiffer because we have had an opportunity to see his everyday activities, in the center of healing. We are able to follow all these activities very well, and we know that the situation in the Czech Republic is not really favorable, as the previous speaker explained. In the Czech Republic, there is still a lot of courage and persuasion needed to demonstrate unwell, and man must be a great personality, because one could be still persecuted for such opinions, which I experienced myself. So I'm honored to have been invited to contribute to the preparation of the platform Camp 2020 Prague, and also to the preparation of the Congress in Prague 2021. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us postpone our personal meeting to the next year. And therefore, we have an opportunity for discussions and reflections on how to unify and strengthen our voices. And as the previous speakers mentioned, every country, every location perceives the tasks a bit differently. And maybe what I will be speaking about might seem too easy or too simple. My profession is physiology and biomedicine. I spent 40 years at the Faculty of Science of Charles University. Out of that 10 years working as the head of the Department of Physiology and Developmental Biology, I introduced immunology lectures, and lately I have been involved in vaccination discussions, which is a very controversial and dangerous area. I also worked at the laboratory of biochemical neuropharmacology of the Institute of Medical Biochemistry and laboratory of the first Faculty of Medicine for 5 years. Over the last 30 years, I have dealt with a holistic and integrative approach to human health, with the possibilities of various disciplines of traditional and complementary and integrative medicine, both within my research work and in their practical application. And I have also done healing activities myself. I have written more than 300 scientific publications and 15 popular educational books for the wide public. Today, I would like to only shortly mention, in reaction to the previous speaker, that one of my last books is called Herbal Plants and Mental Diseases, which I wrote because I have worked among psychiatrists for many years. And as regards herbal plants, here the European Union keeps making obstacles to us, as it does not allow producers what their products are good for. So since 2011, there has been an on-hold list according to which no producer can publish or can release what the product is good for. And we have been waiting for the agreement of the European Union relating to the herbal to the herbs. Today, I would like to only shortly mention our personal experience with the difference in approach of Liegi artist medicine and the attitude of TCIM towards COVID-19 and the epidemic of the autism spectrum disorders. We have all experienced this pandemic, and autism is my favorite topic. And I'm also preparing a case history for the future Congress, which was supposed to happen on these days. While Liegi artist medicine has not been able to offer efficient curative methods to most of COVID-19 patients, we all know that the TCIM approaches recommended especially care for strengthening immunity, good supplements in the form of vitamins and minerals. It might seem that this is something which is thoroughly studied by biomedicine and completely provable, and this has nothing to do with energy healing or homeopathy or Ayurveda or branches which are not in the center of interest. But vitamins and minerals represent something which Liegi artists should have no doubt. Of course, it is understandable that in China, various supplements of traditional Chinese medicine with medicinal herbs were tested. Nevertheless, the representatives of Liegi artist medicine, both abroad and in the Czech Republic, criticize any recommendations of TCIM as unapproved and providing the wrong information. While COVID-19 is a completely new disease, the qualities of the virus stay unknown. But what is known very well, D3, B group, and minerals, for example, zinc, magnesium, calcium, on strengthening the immunity system, has been well known and traditionally used in the long term. At the same time, traditionally proven medicinal plants can be recommended, as well as the previous speaker mentioned. These have multiple positive effects. We know that Liegi artist medicine has allowed testing of the therapy with anti-malarial drug Plaquenil. The drug was applied to 1,542 people with COVID-19. Donald Trump, the US president, promoted it and used it himself. There were 24 million posts on Google reporting this information that he used plaquenil. So media promoted this therapy very largely. Unfortunately, this therapy has been reported as inefficient as it did not decrease the number of deaths. Unfortunately, significantly. And now imagine that on the website of CNN, scientifically completely incorrect information on adverse effects of the vitamin D3 appeared. The readers were warned that the use of this vitamin may cause a death, that it may lead to numerous adverse effects. In the Czech Republic, for example, there was a censorship of the video of Kampa Theatre, the debate of Jaroslav Dušek with Milan Salatek on the experience with traditional Chinese medicine and the use of herbal teas and the influence of vitamins on strengthening the immunity system, because this was identified as a source of disinformation. These are some examples of to what extent and to what extreme the experience and knowledge listed into TCIM may get. I mentioned that I wanted to present the topic of the epidemic of autism spectrum disorders, so-called ACD, at the Planet Congress, which is a very growing disorder. It affects from 3 to 4% in some countries, while pathogenesis of ACD is still unclear, and no efficient therapeutical approaches are well known. TCIM offers tens of cases of amelioration of these disorders. And a high prevalence of ASD is reported from developed countries with water fluoridation, as well as from Asian and African countries with endemic fluorosis. Our theory proves a key role of fluoridation. In EU countries, prevalence of autism is quite low, because most European countries have stopped water fluoridation. In the 70s and 80s of the last century, so this fluoridation was ceased. So here we have made a theory that fluorides belong to root causes of autism. Our publication has experienced a lot of interest of foreign readers. It proves there is a divergence between the fluoridation of drinkable water, which Lady G. Artis medicine considers to be safe and useful care in prevention from dental caries. So there is a divergence with the positive effects of this treatment, because the pluripotent toxic effects might lead to prenatal and postnatal brain development, and these pluripotent toxic effects on fluoride might evoke unexpected epidemics in the future. On the basis news views on the possibilities of supplementary interventions through vitamins and minerals, such supplementary interventions, this can be understood and scientifically explained. My case on my presentation in the future Congress will present case of the amelioration of ACD symptoms of a boy in the Czech Republic. Within the platform, Camp 2020 platform, I would like to explain and promote the idea of the holistic and integrative influence of vitamins, minerals, and medicinal plants in the prevention and intervention in numerous civilization diseases. And I'm looking forward to our cooperation. I can see how the portfolio of our contributors to the platform, which is very delightful. There are many more case studies supported by research. At the moment, there are more than 18,000 contributions of studies in the highest quality, and this also maps the increase of interest of the scientific branch. And now let me welcome Mrs. Miloslava Rutova, who is a member of the Czech Republic. She is a facilitator and therapist of One Brain kinesiology. I would like to wish everybody a beautiful evening, and I would like to thank for a very nice invitation to this company, which I would never think I could belong to, because there have been such experts who have already been presenting, like, for example, Professor Studenecka, or my very first teacher, Mrs. Carol Hunt, who I would like to greet, or Ms. Anujit Bamra, who invited me to the International Yoga Day tomorrow. I have never thought I would be able to speak in such a company. I have spent all my life working with children, working as a pedagogist with special needs or handicapped children. To be able to do so, I studied at 2 universities so that they would be able to get what they deserved. But still, I was not satisfied because in the meantime, the Velvet Revolution came, and the door to various alternatives came. The Selvas method, Reiki, yoga, and everything was fine, but I was not able to apply it on the special needs kids at school. And then on one day, I opened the teacher's magazine, which stated kinesiology, One Brain, unlimited possibilities. And I was staring at the headlines, and I was not able to imagine what this was related to. And after having read the article, I was convinced I already knew what I wanted to do to be able to work with the kids in a better way, so that the children would be able to be useful in their lives, so as not to be full of fear, like Carol mentioned beforehand. To be able to overcome all the obstacles which the common world is making for us, to be able to overcome all these. And I think for every day when I was able to work with this method, because it changed my life from ground up, it also changed the life to the children, because I worked with these children on a daily basis. I worked on their every fear coming from their school, parents, from their school performance, and they started doing better. And I believe our future lies in children, and what we have heard here so far aims not at our future, but at the future of these children, because they are our future. And I feel and what Mr. Pfeiffer is installing in the platform, that's that unity which we should pass forward. We should not give it only to children, but we should give it to children who haven't been born yet. Because if we are unified, the others, we will be able to get in a return what we are what we are giving. So what matters the most is the unity of good people all around. So I don't want to speak about fear or about COVID-19 because this is just fake, because we believe that we can pass on the good things deep in us. I'm happy to be around the people. I'm privileged to meet all of you because you all are interested in achieving good spreading further. Regardless, it is Ayurveda or yoga or kinesiology, or Professor Strunitska with her poisonous age and all her publications, which I also read. This is what the humankind around us needs. This is what this is what our citizens feel. I also felt I come from Pilsen. I started teaching kinesiology. I've been doing it for 35 years. I cooperate with Carol Holz. Originally, I also worked with the founders of the method, Daniel Whiteside and Gordon Stokes. And at the moment, we are gaining much more success because people are spreading it further. It is as if you threw a stone into a lake because the circles start expanding further. And I feel that the platform is a stone which has fallen into the lake. As I originate from Pilsen, I felt I needed to place these alternative methods somewhere where they belong. And I said to myself that I needed to move it somewhere higher. And that's why I got involved in politics. I did not come there to change the laws. I came there to be able to what I feel an inner duty to move it to the parliamentary levels so that people become aware of that. As I can see it in other states, that such a thing is developing. Why should not that be possible in the Czech Republic? Therefore, I was so happy to have received the petition to our petition commission, and that we were able to have a round table debate with Mr. Pfeiffer. And I would like to thank him for all his effort, and I would also like to thank all the others, because I am full of emotions, and full of my heart, I would like to wish all your families, your closest ones, and also your states all the best. Thank you very much for the invitation. I would like to add in wishing this to all of us. Now I would like to invite another panelist who is associate professor at the University of Graz. I would like to introduce you to Mr. Maximilian Moser, who deals with physiology, and he lives in Austria.
Hello. Can you hear me, Thomas?
Ano, slyším.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fine. Greetings to all from Austria. This is Max Moser, and I'm not sure if the video is working because I cannot switch somehow to the conference. But
we can see you. We can hear you. Yes.
Hello. Now what I would like to do is, oh yes, now it's working. I would like to show the screen because I would like to give you an overview of what we are doing here in Graz, and especially in Weiz. And I start with this. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
It's a black screen, but we can see your screen.
Okay. So what we are doing here in Graz and in Austria is to investigate the biological time the biological rhythms. And I would like to show you a short film that was taken a few years ago by National Geographic, where they investigated the heads of the Maui, which is these special heads on the Easter Island, the statues, and they were not sure how the original inhabitants had brought their statues to the sea. And when they asked the old people how they did it, they said that was very easy because the statues walked themselves. And the white people, of course, didn't believe this until the National Geographic team came and observed such a situation. And I will show you this situation from National Geographic. So you see that old wisdom sometimes is right, but in a different way that we expected. And actually, the situation shows that resonance is very well able to stabilize a state, and even a 5-ton Maui statue can be moved by just using resonance frequency. Now, what we have done in our research in the 1990s was some space research with the Russian Space Agency. And you can see here the Austrian cosmonaut with a jacket that we made for him. And this jacket was made with natural colors and natural materials because we were sure that this was the best way to fit humans, even in space. And actually, the jacket won rally from the Russian cosmonauts, where they choose the best experiment that they had in this mission, because they said it makes fun to use it. Now, with this jacket, we measured cardiovascular parameters, and the most interesting of it were the body rhythms as they were visible in the human heartbeat. And you can see here that the human heart carries a lot of rhythms, like the respiratory sinus arrhythmia, which comes from respiration, the blood pressure rhythm in about 10 seconds periods, then the peripheral circulation, which has 1 minute rhythms, the Prague cycle with 90 minutes rhythms, and the circadian cycle. And there are many other cycles too, and these cycles form together something like that we can say is a time body, a time organism of the human body. And the interesting thing is that this time organism really reacts to diseases. And you can see here a healthy subject measured over 24 hours approximately. And this healthy subject was investigated, the heartbeats of this time were investigated using a so-called chronocardiogram, which analyzes the different frequencies that are in these heartbeats. And it's quite fascinating that very similar sonograms of bird songs in a healthy tropical forest can be observed. And you can see that each of these birds, I don't know, maybe you see my mouse arrow, but each bird uses a different frequency band, and so do the different rhythms in the human organism, so that different organs use different frequency bands. And the interesting thing further is that diseases change these rhythms totally. You can see here in the 24-hour recording of a healthy 11-year-old boy, which is in his full health, and the 24-hour recording of a man with cancer metastasis shortly before he dies. And actually, you can see the same in the rainforest. Here's a recording of an American musician who is working with so-called field recordings, Bernie Krause is his name. Voices of the Wild is his book. And here he recorded bird songs in a healthy tropical forest and the same forest after logging. And you can see that the birds have left here, obviously, and therefore no more rhythms, no more songs. You can observe the dying of the wood in a very similar fashion as you can observe the dying of a human. And we think that this kind of chronocardiograms and recordings of human heartbeat oscillations are a very good measure to observe effects of what you call alternative medicine or complementary medicine. Now, what we investigated in our research too was the effect of recitations and poems, you could say, of mantras. And on the upper part of this panel, you can see a recitation of a poem which was from a Nietzsche poem, which is a declamatory poem with a lot of emotion in it. And you can see that it has quite a different type of expression than the recitation of hexameter. That's from Eduard Mörike, Idylle vom Bodensee. And you can see that here are lines in the heartbeats which represent overtones, basic frequencies and overtones. So the heart starts to produce not only singular tones, but whole sounds, Klang, as we should call it in German, which is a better term. In the English language, you don't have a term for this. Now, what we did is to use these kind of recitations in human settings. And you can see in the next slide that this brought us into Time magazine, because we had investigated people with heart problems, not strong heart problems, but palpitations and things like this. And these people had displayed much less of these problems after speaking Greek poetry for a while. That was about 9 weeks, half an hour, 2 times a week, so not too much of it. And actually the heart improved just by speaking the right mantras, that you could say. Now, we were then invited to reproduce this in a setting with construction workers. And these construction workers, they were involved in a rhythm therapy. We used eurythmy and also hexameter, and they moved in this way by carrying the sticks that you see here. And the poems were read to these construction workers so that they moved in the rhythm of these poems. And the results were very surprising because sleep quality improved much. If you look at the blue line, you can see that these were the people that had gymnastic in the beginning, 4 weeks, and then switched to our rhythm therapy. And the sleep quality, which is depicted here, became much better during this time. Whereas people who did not do anything, the construction workers here, the black ones, they just went down in their sleep quality from 80 to 60%. And the red group, these were people who started with rhythm therapy and then switched to normal movements, to gymnastics, and they stayed the same in their sleep quality at least. And this was repeated in 85 Austrian construction companies. And you can see here a certificate that it reduced the sick leave days by 49%, and 25% reduction of accidents was observed because the people slept better and were more awake during their work. Then the reduction was, even after 1 year, 27% in the accidents, even as the program didn't go on. So it was a field effect that carried over for at least 1 year. The last picture that I would like to show you today shows you the classical view of a human as a medical doctor of today has it. It's the view that Andrea Vesalius and Leonardo da Vinci brought into medicine when they depicted the first anatomic sketches of human subjects that were true to the reality. And interestingly, medicine has not moved from that. They're still working with anatomy, with chemistry, with substances and energy, but not with time. And on the right side, you see a time description of the human organism, which is in the very beginning now. We have done this only 30 years up to now. And I think that it will be a successful complement, especially for medicine that takes time into account, as does all the Asian medicine with the organ clock and the palpation of the pulse in the Indian, the Tibetan and Chinese medicine. And I wish these medicines have a future that is really very, very well, because I think that this is the medicine of the future, because it will also have prevention in the core of its activities. Thank you very much.
Děkujeme za příspěvek a můžu potvrdit.
I would like to thank you for your presentation, and I would like to confirm that Mr. Moser takes his branch very seriously, because he asked me not to organize this Congress on a Saturday next time, because this is not very favorable in view of chronology, because he works a lot in the area of resonation. One of the greatest scientists who have ever lived, Nikola Tesla, left a great message to us on this issue. Now I would like to welcome another guest in our Congress. It is Dr. Natalia Sofia Aldana Martinez, coming from Colombia, and she is the chief editor of Virtual Health Library on Traditional, Complementary and Integrative Medicine of the Americas.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Thank you, Thomas, and thank you all the team for the invitation to the TCIM Americas Network to share this experience. I am trying to share. Give me 1 minute. Okay, I think that now we have the screen. Yes. Okay, could you please confirm me if the screen is visible to everyone?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So thank you a lot, and we really appreciate this invitation, and we really appreciate also that all this beautiful team of different countries of the Europe region had been developing this all these kind of beautiful and interesting projects in the TCIM 5, and we are yes, we are pleased to share the experience that we have in our region, like is the Americas region. So today we want to share with you the experience of the Virtual Health Library on Traditional, Complementary, Integrative Medicine. That is a virtual health library who follows the Virtual Health Library model from VIREME. VIREME is the Latin American and Caribbean Health Information Science Center of the Pan American Health Organization. Is a model that was developed since 21 years ago, and right now there are like more than 134 different virtual health libraries in all the countries of the Americas region. Some of these virtual health libraries are national, some of them are about some specific thematics in the public field. in the health field, sorry. And the virtual health library is like a kind of model, a strategy, a policy, a health information management platform. It's a public good, and there seeks create and organize and disseminate information source to address the needs of different actors, stakeholders, health systems, governments, and the BHL TCIM took and follows this BHL model to create a specific virtual health library in a specific thematic that is the traditional complementary integrative medicine field. So the main objective is to promote the visibility, access, use, and generation of scientific, technical, and educational content that contribute to the promotion, development, and integration of the TCIM in health system and service in the Americas region. And for that, we have like our main lines of action, but also we have specific lines of action for each one of the sections that I will talk about later. So the main lines of action of our project are promote open access to scientific technical information in the on evidence on TCIM, promote informed decision-making using the best available knowledge and evidence on TCIM, and facilitate the knowledge exchange and collaboration amongst the stakeholders. So the TCI Americas network is made of stakeholders involved in the formulation of policies, regulation, training, promotion, practice, use, and research on TCIMs in the Americas region. This network was established in June of 2017 in a regional meeting in Managua, Nicaragua. This TCI Americas network has a variety of stakeholders from more or less 15 countries right now of the Americas region. These stakeholders are national health authorities, professional associations, research groups, providers, and indigenous and Afro-American organizations. And we are working in develop and expand different TCIM TCIM national network in each country. We have also different, or not different, we believe and we think that the TCI Americas network is like a kind of network of networks. In an order, each country has different stakeholders that have been working on the TCIM since a long time ago in different levels. And we had been trying or had been working in join all that different efforts of these different variety of stakeholders. And that's why for us it's like a kind of a network of a spider, no? So we are a network of networks, and one of the main actors or not main actor, but at least the main stakeholders in some of our lines of action plan, our strategic plan, and the Academic Consortium of Brazil for Integrative Health, the Collaborative Center of Traditional and Complementary Medicine of the Complementary Medicine Management of Exsalud in Peru, and the National Observatory on TCIM of Brazil. So this is our website. You can find that in 3 languages, English, Portuguese, and Spanish. We have one virtual health library that offers not just a database collection, it offers also different sections with that specific information that could be useful for the health professionals and also the decision making. So this is the main page. You can find there a main menu and a database search, some part for highlights, and the different sections that you can find there. Also, we have specific sections for news, for events, access to evidence map, and a tool to suggest events. So we have this information, this database from different sources, international, regional, and national database. We have right now 1,316,000 articles and theses and technical documents. And we also have been developing a specific database on the TCIM. We call it Mosaico. And this database is trying to index scientific and technical documents of the region of the Americas that are not available in other databases. And we are using the VHL information architecture developed by BIREME and shared by WHO's Global Index Medicus. We have a specific inclusion-exclusion criteria and a specific team of librarians working on trying to increase the number of the documents indexed there. We also have a specific section that set up all the information of the different institutions that of entities that work in policy development, in regulation, training, research, service provision, and also in health promotion in TCIM, in the health system in the different countries. Right now we have information from 14 countries, but we expect could encourage other countries to share and to collect and share that information to be published. Also, oh, sorry, something happened here. Sorry. Okay, we have also a specific section for the regulation and policies in practice, practitioners, and products in the TCIM, and we have also a menu with information of each country. This information was reviewed and collected by the health authorities in each country. We have also one section that is aligned with the PAHO WHO ethnicity and health policy and brings information about the traditional medicine of different ethnic groups like the indigenous peoples and the Afro-American and the Rom population. We have a specific section to talk about to bring TCIM understanding and brings basic information on TCIM. We are developing with this glossary of information, a collection of the different journals of each one of the medical system and as well as the therapeutic methods. And we are developing evidence maps. We have two main sections about research. One of them is the academic consortium section that is managed by the Brazilian consortium. But we expect that this initiative could expand in a regionally way to have a Latin American academic consortium in integrative health. And we also have one section, is one of our favorites, I guess, that is strengthening research. And we are trying to collect all the resources to improve and to encourage people to research more in the TCIM and also to improve the capacity in research of the health professionals. And for each one of these sections, we have a specific editorial committees, and each one of these committees has monthly meetings. Sometimes we have 10 or 15 meetings each month to try to set up our policies, our lines of action, to see our goals, to have a strategic plan for each section, and to finally got development of content and also to build some specific projects. So we have specific plans of actions. We work online, obviously, because we are in different countries of the Americas region. We have a specific planning schedule. We have a specific responsibility, and each committee are aligned with the objectives of the VHL TCIM. And also we have this section that is one product of a collaborative effort between the Brazilian Academic Consortium of Integrative Health, BREME, and the TCIM Americas Network. And this product is a collection of evidence map that we are working on and we are developing with our researchers team from different countries, but most of them are Brazilian researchers. Right now, you are able to find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 12. I think that right now are 12 or 10 evidence map published in the website in the 3 languages. You can find that information. And in the BHL TCIM was launched on March of 2018. And since that, we have been users from different countries and not just from the Americas region. Actually, we have been visited by people from all the continents, from all the regions. Right now, or not right now, last week, our statistics were that we have 33,000 page views and more or less 56,000 users from the different countries. We have also a social media presence, not so fast and not so fully like we will want, but we have an Instagram page and a Facebook page also. And the main idea here is that all this job of these 3 years has been possible because we are a lot of people involved. We are different stakeholders from different countries, from different levels, and each one of that institutions, each one of that stakeholders have a goal that is bring the TCIM into a strength and contribute to the TCIM could be implemented in the different health systems in order to help to decrease some gaps in inequity in health, and in order to help to resolve some public health issues. So our main strengths are the variety of stakeholders, the collaborators from different countries, all the collaborative work that is fully of solidarity, all the technological support, because without that, this project was really, will be impossible. We have all the technological support of the BHL model that BREME has been working in the last 21, 22 years, and they have a lot of engineers and a lot of librarians and a lot of people that are working every day to improve and develop different technological tools to have this kind of a huge virtual health library. One of our strengths is also that this is a replicable model. What we think is that in the future could be like a kind of virtual health library in each region, and like a kind of worldwide virtual health library on TCIM. And we know that the initiative right now is in the Americas region because we were so fortunate to join the stakeholders that were sharing these same ideas. But for sure, in different regions of the world, there are a lot of stakeholders that if start to join efforts and start to join the collaborative work, are able to create or follow this kind of models of collaborative work. And also, one of our strengths are that we are aligned with all the PAHO and WHO strategies, and that we have common goals. and that we are also trying to support decision makings with all the information that we are collecting. Our challenges, because now everything is like so easy. This has been 3 years of a really, really, really hard job, hard work, and each one of us has been putting the best that he or she or they are able to put. Our challenges are expand the TCIM Americas network across the region, because right now we have just 15 countries, and we expect that all the 35 countries of the regions could be working in this project. Definitely one of the situations that for us is a challenge is the financial support. Also, we have the idea to have to add a French interface, because right now we have just 3 languages. We think that it's necessary and it's important include more ethnic groups collaborator in the team. Also we have, but we think that it's necessary have more presence of the ethnic groups. We think also that we need to strengthen the information source, not just the database that are available. We need to continue talking with each institution in each country that are producing and developing research in the TCIM. For example, universities that have sometimes just a physical library or just a virtual repository that are not so open, and that the rest of the world just doesn't know that exists. So we know that we need continue working with each institution to strengthen this information source, to join that information of the physical libraries and also the virtual repositories, to include all that information in the Mosaico database, to have a really good database that shows visibility, do visible all the information that the Americas is producing in the TCIM field. And then we have also all the content development of each one of our committees. Like I told you before, we have different sections, and each one of that has a huge plan of action. So we have a lot of tasks in front of us. We have also the idea of continuous strengthening the TCIM national networks, as well as enhancing the research capacity in each country and in all the region, and maybe with all the resources that we are developing could enhance the research capacity in all the world. We want to continue producing the evidence maps, the e-learning course, and also open educational resource. So our next steps are expand the TCI Americas network across the region, further develop each section of the VHL, like I told you before, strengthen the Mosaico database, refine strategies that we know that we are yet in that process, and continue our project. We developed one first stage, and now we are in a second stage of a review of the TCIM terminology in the mesh and the DEX terminology. We are in a huge project with that also. And mainly, I think that is a summary of this project. We hope that all this quickly worldwide of our experience of how had been our war in the Americas region could be useful for each one of you, of the people that are listening us. We believe that to achieve this kind of projects is absolutely necessary. Have common goals, but goals that help others. We are not able to set up and build be a reality or not be a reality, became something in a reality if we are not able to work from our souls, from our hearts, and we think that the main strength of our project is all the network of stakeholders and all the efforts that each one of them in each country of the Americas region is putting there. And obviously the dream that we have that is support with the TCIM to the world population in the best way possible in the health systems and service. So that is one. That is why what we wanna share with you.
Děkuji za příspěvek.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It seems that we share the same dreams, and the extent of your project is extremely large, and it deserves respect. I got the information about the existence of your project by Gita Krishnan, a representative of WHO in Geneva, and this is why I learned about your project, and he offered a cooperation in the implementation of our common goals. I would like to say that here in Europe, we have experience which is quite large and very comprehensive. One of the largest studies has been a Cambrella study, which was funded by the European Union. And this project covered 17 research centers, which worked on mapping and scientific education of this area, with the outcome which was presented at the European Parliament. And this is just one of the components of the project which was developed in Europe because we are separated by a big distance. I am very happy to hear about your approach and all the other disciplines and approach. And this leads me to the unification and multiplication of our effort. We have experienced different historical developments, but in Europe, China or India, these approaches lead to the one thing, and this is the help to people and the help to disciplines, which should enable these disciplines to help humans. Because what is not important is the name, but it's the benefit for the humankind. So this has nothing to do with duplicity or any competitive environment, because this would be the worst thing which could happen. Unity is the only way forward, because we all are humans who have souls and bodies and our needs and our dreams and all other. I believe that our common dreams will unify in one, because we share the same dream, and I'm very delighted that somebody else is working in a similar way, in such an extent, in all aspects which are not covered by our efforts, but still may lead to the support of our common efforts. Your database covers more complementary medicine, more as I perceive it. But this does not matter. I have noticed during my visits of congresses that and understood that one of my my ambitions is to make bridges and dissolve those barriers between us, so that we follow the important things. Thank you very much for your speech, and I'm looking forward to any possible cooperation of all of us. And now I would like to invite a specialist in integrative medicine, Dr. Baswati Bhattacharya, coming from the USA, who is a clinical assistant professor at Cornell University and Fulbright specialist in global public health, to give her speech.
Thank you very much. I am so privileged to be here among each of you, and I have completely enjoyed and felt blessed by the heavens that I get to meet each of you today, and then we have a very long coffee break for 1 year in which we get to know each other before we actually meet in physical person in Prague next year. This ability to bring all of us together, those of us who are interested in this effort of complementary, alternative, traditional, complementary, integrative, holistic medicines, represents so many different wars and battles that we have waged against people who do not believe in our sciences or in our arts. It also represents many people from the mainstream who have got all the credentials of modern science, who have turned away from some of that because they realized that the things that they were trained in modern medicine weren't giving the level of healing to their patients that they wanted. They wanted to expand the options. And the bully, the tyrannist of positivism or of evidence-based medicine, or whichever term it was setting rules that made all of us feel that we are alternative or not acceptable or not mainstream. Some of us have felt that more than others. My experience traveling, I live in 3 places in the world during the year, and I'm very familiar with them. One is in France, in Paris. One is in India, where I have a home in Udupi, which is in the south, and in Benares, one of the oldest cities, one of the oldest cities in Asia, which is in more North India, and then New York in Manhattan, where I serve as an assistant professor in New York, of course, at Cornell Medical College. And I have my main medical practice as a mainstream medical doctor there. And during this last 6 months, we'll say, the world has been turned. Some people think it's upside down. Some people think it's been traumatized. Some people see it in a very negative way, but it's also in a very positive way, in that walls that were there have literally been broken down while other bizarre walls have been put up. And that gives those of us who are trying to move for the acceptance of a new kind of paradigm to take that initiative. It's allowing people who never had the opportunity to be recognized as an important part of the healthcare system to be recognized. So I'm going to move back and forth between my experiences in these countries that I've mentioned, in this theme that I'm talking of. In the past last few months or last few years, there have been several things that have happened. I'll start with, well, I'm in India right now, so I'll start with India. In the middle of March, Ayurveda, which is one of the 8 legal medical systems of India, and India is unique because it has 8 legal medical systems. Ayurveda was considered to be illegal, and there was no place for any Ayurvedic physician who was a legally licensed physician to have any part in treating any person with COVID. And it was put very strongly. And in the middle of March, actually toward the end of March, there was an article in one of the largest newspapers called "Beware of Quackery." And there was a huge outcry from all of these people who are healers to say, why are you calling us quacks? We are not alternative medicine. There are all of these systems of healing. And by the way, if you are calling us quacks, then what are you? Because the basis of your medicine is evidence-based medicine, you mean the mainstream, which were the only doctors allowed to practice, and your medicine isn't working. Whether it's hydroxychloroquine or the ventilators, it's not working. So how can you tell us that we are quacks when what you're doing isn't working? So no one wrote a rebuttal to that from the government or from any of the large associations, but everyone behind the scenes was criticizing. And meanwhile, Ayurveda was illegal. And I was among a group of them. And one morning I just got up and I got very incensed and passionate, just as all of you are. And I actually wrote an article about it, and it was published. And 2 days later, the Prime Minister met with 25 people from the complementary medicine fields. And within 3 days after that, all of a sudden, Ayurveda was allowed to be practiced. People were allowed to use it for prevention. And then the ball started rolling. And now there are clinical studies that have shown that Ayurvedic herbs, Ayurvedic interventions, Ayurvedic marma points, Ayurvedic various modalities are working, and those evidences are being gathered. And that movement was not even imaginable for most of the homeopaths, Ayurvedic doctors, Unani, Siddha, Swaripa, which is Tibetan medicine. It wasn't even possible 4 months ago. In addition, there are many people who are in the mainstream, who are my friends, doctors at the hospital has dealt with it, my hospital, New York Presbyterian Hospital. We have a secret chat group on WhatsApp, and the doctors of mainstream medicine were sharing confidentially that they had no idea what to do, that they were being invited by pharmaceutical companies to try anything that works, because right now it was an open window and there was nothing illegal. You could use HIV medicines and you could use all kinds of things that didn't work for anything else, and just try it, see if you can get some data. And they felt that it was unethical. In addition, there was a lot of chat going on in this group of doctors who felt ethically so burdened because they knew, and one guy wrote, we know that when we put someone on a ventilator, 80% of the time we know they're going to die. And so when we tell them that we're trying to help their lungs breathe, we actually know they're giving them a death sentence. So when they think that we're choosing them to get a ventilator and they feel lucky, they're actually not lucky. I give you these stories because modern medicine doctors that I see today, who have either recently trained and wanted to become a doctor so they could help people, or people that have been in the business of modern medicine, who have all the power, who have the laws behind them, many of them are very frustrated. And as a MD licensed and all, all of those bells and whistles in New York, but as someone who took a very bold step to force the US government and the government of India to observe that Ayurveda could be a medical system, and to get a Fulbright to go to India and study Ayurveda as an actual legal medical, doctor studying it. I also did a PhD in Ayurveda, which gave a certain amount of heads turning by the modern medical people. And there has been a huge group of modern medical doctors who come to me in New York or in America who say, we don't believe in our medicine, but I'm trapped. I am the chairman of cardiology, and I don't know how to get out of this because I have a mortgage, because I have a car. They are waiting for people like Natalia with her evidence, and for people like Thomas, who is creating this initiative. They're waiting for people to change the policy so that it's legal for them to practice. In India, I have friends who are mainstream medical doctors who are forbidden by law to do something called crosspathy. Crosspathy is when you practice one form of medicine, either homeopathy or allopathy or some pathy, and you are not allowed to practice another. So if you're a mainstream medical doctor and you know that arnica would be very good for pain, you can't prescribe it because you're a medical doctor who can only prescribe pharmaceuticals. You can't prescribe or recommend Ayurvedic medicines. And I think many of you know these scenarios, and maybe you have them in your own countries, and maybe you don't. But it creates a very interesting possibility for us right now, because those doctors in India who would love to practice TCIM or CAM or integrative medicine, but cannot. And those doctors in America who are desperate, they're part of the mainstream. Then there's the whole group of my friends, people who are working so hard, spending their lives, their time, people like Madan, who goes out of his way to really bring science into complementary medicine forums so that people can think more openly. Because just saying you're a genome biologist sounds so, okay, he's hardcore, he really understands science. We are all using our credentials. This forum is a place for all of us to get educated. So I am so thrilled that even though I've been studying complementary medicine, I was learning new things. I was learning about new places I can go, more things I can read. And so I have a few things to offer, and I hope that if this is all old for you, that you will forgive me, because many of you know many things, but maybe it will at least get you to think about what's possible in your country. One is that there are children today who are growing up as our children, enjoying complementary medicine because we believe in it. And within 5 years or 10 years, they're going to be the adults. So I meet 20, 25-year-old medical students who say, yeah, I don't believe any of this education that they're giving us because most of it just doesn't even incorporate the complementary medicine that I know. I'm just getting the degree so that I can be official. They are the ones who are going to be the champions, changing the laws. And we see that happen in certain places. So there are transformations happening regularly. Health Canada has a huge section now for doctors of natural medicine who are trained in their countries and come to Canada to get recognized and registered. In the US last week, there was the opening of a yoga university that's going to offer courses. There is a reading of the Sanskrit text, which is called the Ashtanga Hridayam, in an actual bona fide university of the United States, Southern California University. And that course is going to begin in a couple of months. You would just never have seen that before. There are young people who are coming forward and saying, we're going to bring this into our world, that you people, the old people, meaning those of us who are over 35, that we didn't bring in. In America, there are 11 states that have health freedom laws that allow us to practice Ayurveda, homeopathy, and many CAM modalities in a way that is not illegal. There are still many barriers, but it is possible for those people to go to Rhode Island or Maine or California or Washington and practice. And indeed, that's where you see a lot of the healing modality practitioners. What is disturbing, well, let me give a couple of other examples first. There's also a registry right now that's looking at how complementary medicine practitioners are treating COVID patients, and that's at the National University of Natural Medicine in Portland, where they have gathered a whole bunch of people together to have a petition, or not a petition, a registry for people to fill that in. And those data are being compiled. They have hundreds and hundreds of people that have written out what they're doing, and that's a way of compiling evidence. So the difficult part right now is that many people are not educated. I'm in India, where many people still give presentations about Ayurveda, where they say, here's what's happening in America. No one practices complementary medicine the way we do. No one is able to practice Ayurveda. And when they make these statements, they are not, I don't want to say they're wrong, but they're outdated. So what I see as one of our tasks over this coffee break that we're having in the next year is to educate everyone, whether we are publishers of magazines, as my good friend John Weeks has the power of doing, or whether we're sitting among policymakers, as Mr. Amarjit or I should say Dr. Madan is doing, or whether we have access to people who tell us or speak at a conference and they don't have the latest facts. It's up to us to inform them and help them to know more. It shouldn't just be an elite group of small people who know about complementary medicine because they're the chosen ones that have the jobs that get to find out about complementary medicine. It should be all of us. Complementary medicine belongs to the people because, as Thomas said, it's there to heal everyone. So everyone has a role if we want to heal. And I think most people who are in health or healthcare want to heal. There are a few people who actually don't want to heal, and I've met them too. They are the people that got into this business to make money, and they want to make money, and they are going to use their money to make sure that they will make money and keep the laws supporting them. And so we need to think about compassionate, open-hearted ways, frankly, to wage the war against them. Because when I meet those kind of people who are in it for their own personal vision, and I say to them, if you ever get sick, don't come to me for Ayurveda, because I'm just so incensed by your lack of compassion for healing medicine. I think Dr. Madan talked about how we have institutionalized disease care, and we have misnomered it as healthcare. So I see that in India as well, because the modern medical system takes up about 97% of the budget. And yet the 3% of the budget, the money, doesn't mean anything in India, because the culture of India existed before there was money. 60% of the people use traditional medicines, traditional meaning the ancient medicines. And frankly, they don't need to go buy pills. I have invested in a hospital here. Our backyard is our pharmacy. We go back there and we pick the leaves, we make the medicines right here in our pharmacy, and we apply them to our patients. We don't need that 3% of the budget. What we do need is evidence. And so we're giving a talk on Nadi Pariksha, the pulse diagnosis. So I was so happy to see Dr. Moser's evidence. And so I thought, one of the things we can do for each other is not only share this evidence, but create forums at the conference next year where we challenge each other, not to give one-on-one talks, but to take a common question and ask 5 or 6 people, how do you deal with this question? How did you solve this? What's the evidence for this? Because I want to learn what the evidence is, because that's how we're going to convince the people who are not believers. I would love to have training sessions there so that all of us can understand energy work if we've never felt it, or that we can understand the different manual therapies. Some people have never heard of naprapathy. They've heard of chiropractic or osteopathy, but they don't know about varma therapy or marma therapy. These are all healing modalities, and all of us have the opportunity and the privilege to get educated from each other. So that transformation that's going on right now, I want to, even though I also get quite frustrated. I was listening about the fear that we were talking about earlier, that I think it was Carol Ann that was talking about that. And I was thinking there are a lot of people that have fear, but if we can look at this as an opportunity for transformation and see that all of us have homework to do. We all need to know everything on that TCIM database that Natalia talked about. We all need to go and read from the journals and figure out how we can publish in the journals to create evidence. We all need to help Thomas gather more so that this huge compendium he has, which is, by the way, if you haven't looked through it, it'll take you about 4 or 5 hours, but take some time to go through it. It's an amazing compendium so far. And it's already outdated on the day that it was, bound. And take time to get educated. I think it's easy to say, okay, this is what I offer. But if we all become students and we continue to learn from each other, I think that we are going to create an umbrella, a web that is so powerful because it is based in the heart, in the hridaya, in healing. Hridaya is the Sanskrit word for that which beats, which gives and takes and exchanges, and which is the seat of our conscience, our thinking mind, and our feeling mind. We constantly translate this word or mistranslate this word as heart, but the hridaya has to do with a function of ourselves that binds us to each other. And so I don't know if anything I've said has helped you or has made you think about anything new or useful, but I have been invested for the last 30 years trying to turn things around, trying to both be a warrior, but also be a gentle angel. By holding a knife or a sword sometimes to break down walls, but also to make sure that that sword doesn't hurt other people. Sometimes I'm very sharp with my words. Sometimes I have to be very gentle when I touch patients who are suffering. And in my 30 years working in the US, fighting, I worked in the Office of Alternative Medicine when it was called the Office of Non-Conventional Therapies, and the logo was a witch broom at the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland. I worked there in 1992. And I have watched America grow. I've watched DSHEA, which is our main law. It's called the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of 1994. I've watched how that has protected many of the supplements and medical, I won't say medical, I'll say the non-medical therapies or the complementary therapies. And I've watched health policy. I am sure that if all of us find the evidence that the others in this group have been working on and we share it, there will be a tipping point. The tipping point is where nothing's changing, nothing, and then suddenly everything changes. And I think that we can create that, we can be witness to it, and we can hold hands virtually across the screens, which technology is giving us today, until we meet next year. So that by the time we meet next year, the vision of Thomas and of Carol and of Miloslava and Natalia and Madan and all the others who I'm not naming can come together. So I want to be a servant in this effort. And I wish that if there's anything that I've said that has helped you and you want to reach out to me, that you will. I have a few skill sets because of my background in research and in biomedicine, in pharmacology and neuroscience. I understand drugs. I have been practicing clinical medicine for a few years, I'll say. And because I move back and forth between Europe, India, and America, I am constantly helping people who are working in complementary medicine to find out what they don't know and to find solutions for things that they didn't even know already exist. So I hope that's been useful for you, and thank you for listening. Namaste.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank Baspati, who is a Fulbright specialist. And let me express a sorrow that she is not like Goddess Kali, who has more hands and arms. And I believe that her two hands have done much more work than any other hands. Let me make a comment. Some young doctors, as we could see in statistics, will experience 70% of patients who have used a form of alternative medicine. And it's very important for us to be able to be informed, to be able to tune their therapies and connecting the different methods. So this is very important for them to have at least basic information. Now I would like to welcome an organizer in the field of integrative medicine, a man who has been dealing with this branch for decades, and a man who has made a lot of work in this branch, and this is John Weeks from the USA. I would like to ask you for your speech.
Thank you, Thomas. It's a pleasure to join all of you here. Some of you I met last week. Baswati I've known for, I think we met at conferences in New York, and Natalia I got to be involved in 2017 in the meeting in Managua that helped kick off the network, and we've had some chance to work together. So a real pleasure to be with you. I have been nearly 40 years in the field, and a lot of it organizing for change in a variety of capacities. But I think a lot of what I'm going to share with you has come out of a piece of my work, which is writing a newsletter that hasn't been about the clinical advances, but about the policy and organizational activity that people have been involved with and helped create. That's helped move the field and move the ultimately the options of the public to have more access to various complementary integrative services. So I'm going to take you on a little ride for my 13 to 15 minutes here on a slideshow. Let me pull it up here. So it is. Okay, but I want to start not there, but here. And let me get going here. All right. So it's gonna be a bit of a ride, but context. Some of it you'll recognize, and some of it's going to be very distinctive to the U.S. And you know, the idea here is if you're setting up a model for this development, you'll be able to see, you know, options in your own nations, and options, I think, particularly as I get to a little bit of talk about a platform with which I was quite involved, some thinking about what you're doing there also. I tell this story as convergence because, as Baswati said, there are more, there's more potential, there's more inclusion that's happening in the US anyway. And you're going to see some of the work that's behind it. I always like to start with kind of the false presentation of medicine as it was via television and magazines. In the US, we always called it the best medicine in the world. And it was in ultimate denial of something I will share later about how many people are actually, you know, killed through the regular practice of medicine on an annual basis, and the amount of just utter waste and unnecessary stuff performed. Inside of that field were these characteristics here. It was a men's club, it was surgeons first, so authoritarian. There wasn't much investment in primary care. It was absolutely not interprofessional. It was monocultural. It was disdainful towards the rest of the world. Reductive in its perspectives from research, and it was focusing in the U.S. because we don't have a national system. It's just focused on production. It's been a very, very capitalist model. All of you, can you hear me? I'm here getting an ear from Baswati. Anyway, can you hear me now? No, somebody give me thumbs up if you can hear me.
Yes,
we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, very good. Anyway, I think most of us are of the age to remember the 60s. And I think that this movement has really grown out of the set of values. An earlier speaker talked about that, and I think maybe it was you, Tomas, and kicking off that's what you locate in bringing people together is the realization of what connects you. And all of these movements at once, they're not all about medicine per se, but they all influenced, I think, this effort to go forward. What we observed is a fascinating thing is that after those ideas came into the culture, many different people began to say, if we want to actually make something substantial of them, we need to form organizations. Some of you are running those such organizations. What was really intriguing to me as sort of found history was all of these things happened within like 1978 and early 80s. Whether it was naturopathic medicine or acupuncture or holistic medical practice, holistic nursing practice, And then the group on the right there is researchers in academic medicine who were trying to link the mind and the body back together again. Their first productions of publications were coming out at roughly the same time. So we had this time where the work, and I was quite involved with it, was advancing in silos. I happened to be working for a decade with the naturopathic doctors. But the idea was that in order to play in the larger healthcare game, you kind of have to get your papers in order. Yeah, their sort of rules of the game in the US are to be considered a real part of the system. You have to have, and you've got schools, but you need to have an accrediting agency. And that agency needs to be recognized by the federal government. So all of this work was going on in all of these fields independently to do that, to set up national certification, and then to expand licensing in the 50 states. It actually was one of the values here is that because licensing is state to state, it was easier to travel to the capital and smaller groups of people could make things happen. So there are places where, 6 naturopathic doctors in a state working with consumers, people often who are influential, who are users, were making changes. I'm happy if to send this slide deck around to any of you if you want it afterwards. What took that work out of the kind of alternative zone towards consideration in the mainstream was this study. It's famous in the US dialogue. The fact that it was researchers from Harvard and it was published in the New England Journal of Medicine helped. What's fascinating is it wasn't a systematic review. It was a study of consumer use, and it found that all of these people were using these therapies, and then all of the stakeholders began to think differently. And people who were inside of insurance companies, hospitals, who were using these things quietly, like Baswati was saying, were empowered to say, shoot, if a third are using it and it tends toward people with greater education, if I look around my hospital here, a third of these people are doing it and hiding it also. And it got people to get engaged. The federal government began at that time to recognize this at the NIH. We were very, very lucky to have our main champion be the best person to have as a champion. He's the head of funding basically for Health and Human Services and oversaw the NIH. And so he tucked away this first $2 million, and then they've kept adding as it grew from an office to becoming a full center there. But it's a lot of money that we've had access to. And those are the different directors. I will tell you a bit about Helen, who's at the bottom there in a moment, but the two in the middle were both people who were chosen. They knew nothing about, knew nothing about integrative or alternative practices. They were, antagonists is probably too strong, but they were not friendly and didn't actually know what questions to ask. A sign of change is that Helen actually is beginning to ask some of the right questions. Our champion is Tom Harkin, the guy on the right there. He's retired in 2014, but he set up this commission, which was a great report. George Bush came in after that, and it was a Democratic report. Republicans came in, and it was kind of forgotten. But it was been valued to a lot of us internally. We all know that money makes things happen. And the fact that the NIH was giving money in these areas, it was a tool to wake up academic health centers. And knowing that if they had a center in their school, it would be easier, that was a member of this consortium, it would be easier for them to access the research money that was there. And they began to be this expansion of this consortium. These are a lot of fine people. There are now 75 med schools, Yale, Harvard, UCSF, University of Michigan, Duke, major schools that have these integrative programs, those that have clinical operations, have naturopathic doctors, chiropractors, acupuncturists. Acupuncturists and massage therapists are the main people on site there. Mind-body therapists also. But this then becomes a change agent, right? It's the big player in the field. But part of what has helped us move forward is that the mainstream of medicine in the US has had a reckoning from that idea of being the best medicine ever. This report, To Err is Human, came out and shared that there were 100,000 deaths per year due to the regular practice of medicine. An update of this in 2016 from a Johns Hopkins researcher published in the BMJ estimates that number is at 251,000. What that's done is it's created a dissident group inside of regular medicine. It's not us in the integrative world, but a dissident group in regular medicine that said, we need to change what's going on. And they began to what they call a movement from volume, this capitalist effort to just do more and more and more. A lot of, a third of our procedures and surgeries are unnecessary. Some say it's 50%. That's just capitalism trying to make as much money off of human bodies. And there's this dissident group that's saying we need to have a different structure. And so what they call values-based medicine is their movement. I put this together for an article in JACM, where I'm the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine, where I'm editor-in-chief. But you can see that there's some similarities for you who can read English, where values in this new effort in the US began to align with what we were bringing forward, right? And that created, what receptor sites for what we were talking about that aren't there. And just as an idea, if you have the idea that more use of integrative medicine can save money, and you're trying to pitch somebody that's in volume-based medicine trying to do more all the time, they don't have any ears to hear, right? Once this change began, we began to see more receptivity and began to see this convergence. This language was referenced earlier. I think it was you, Medan, who was saying, they're beginning to talk about what creating health is and how different that is than disease management. Donald Berwick here, who I'll reference a minute later, was head of our Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. He's actually a great friend of integrative. But realizing that this move to create health, as he says, is a redesign that may be even more radical than we have imagined, right? And the guy below, who was head of the American Hospital Association, says, I don't think anyone understands that recipe. And the point is they don't have any reason to know the recipe because they have not been creating health. A lot of us have been involved in the work to create health. We know some of those ingredients. So knowing this context was shifting, we began to realize that as long as each of our professions was working alone, we didn't have the power that we could have if we began to work together. So we began to bring in the US, there are 5 licensed fields in this area: acupuncture, chiropractic, naturopathic medicine, massage therapy, and then direct entry midwifery that have the papers in order. We began to bring them together and realize, thanks to the size of the massage field, that there are 400,000 licensed practitioners. About 250,000 are massage therapists. But as a group, when we can bring our values together in a kind of platform, as you're seeking to create, and merge our voices and begin to make requests, we found out we could change some things. So for instance, the upper left there it's a political organization that we created, the Integrative Health Policy Consortium. We began to work heavily when Obama was going through their major health reform. And in doing so, we're able to inlay language in our federal law that had never been there before. Integrative medicine shows up. There's more appearance of complementary medicine. For the first time, the 400,000 began to be considered part of the workforce, right? In the US. I mean, we're part of the workforce, but the federal government was not recognizing us and began to do so here. These next 2 slides are about work that I did. I was working as the executive director of this academic collaborative for integrative health for about 8 years as this change was happening. And we realized the triple aim here is a shorthand for values-based medicine. It pulls together 3 of the values of lowering costs, saving money, and creating better health. There's a 4th aim, which is creating more resilience in practitioners. But we decided, let's pull together all the evidence we have that can show how aligned we are through those messages. So if you go to this site that's at the bottom here, you can go and jump into those 3 areas: enhance the patient experience. It's all of the evidence that we have from various studies that shows that we do that. We've then, the other major focus, because it's huge, is cost. You can have evidence, but if you're not saving money, why should we talk to you, is often what we hear. But we pulled together all of the studies that have shown where the cost value is. So it's really acknowledging the value of the platform, Tomas, and our use of it. The other major initiative we did on the platform was realizing that our people needed to be educated to the language and practice of evidence, because that's kind of it's the language of medicine, even if it's not what motivates it all the time, even if it's used as a tool of war rather than used as a tool of healing. But we developed this major project that was helping to train the people in our fields and the educators in our fields on strategies to get better at developing evidence, working with evidence, understanding the language. I should say that the NIH grants actually supported development of a lot of this. So as I said, we began to work in collaboration, but the consortium grew. There was a collaboration of philanthropists that grew. And we then realized we weren't meeting the needs of the underserved, and we started integrative medicine for the underserved. We finally started a professional association, the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine, that for the first time brought integrative medical doctors and all of these other fields into the same organization. So you could all be members together, which was, you know, in retrospect, shame on us that it took so long, but quite a step forward. This slide just captures some value that we've created. So Don Berwick, this same fellow who ran our Medicare, Medicaid services, gave a talk a few years ago about this transition towards creating health. What was fascinating in it is when he talked about who is mentoring him in this thinking about salutogenesis, about health creation, all of his main mentors were from our fields. So our influence is actually shaping the dialogue amongst the dissenters in regular medicine. At the same time, in the US, we have a single payer system, the Veterans Administration. That's also, it's kind of like, more like the UK, in that they're employed practitioners also. Well, they started an initiative in an office called Patient-Centered Care and Cultural Transformation in 2011. Tracy Gaudet on the left here is an integrative doctor who ran Andrew Weil's program. It's a pretty famous one in Arizona, and then ran the Duke program in integrative medicine. She was the founder of it. Ben Kliegler, who's next to her, has been the chair of the consortium and was running a New York program. Has done many other great things. Got him in, he's now directing that program while she's doing something else, which I won't get into. It's also wonderful. But so there's this whole effort inside of the VA in its, I don't know how many scores. There are now 54 veterans hospitals that have whole health programs that are bringing chiropractors, Tai Chi, mind body, acupuncturists and others into care delivery around a very smart integrative strategy. It's the work has begun to pay off. The work is still hard. It's begun to pay off. We are now in some guidelines, a number of pain guidelines that people have been sending, publishing, and in some of the oncology guidelines, there's integrative strategies. Helen, who runs the NIH, our office now, comes from the Harvard Integrative Medicine program, and she's actually bringing this idea of that's not reductive, of looking at the whole health, the whole person, into that office's strategic plan. And she's talking about the needs to focus on restoration, rehabilitation, regeneration, resilience. I'm going to basically about to close here with this movement that we've seen the last 5 years. We've been coming out of our insularity in North America and Europe, I guess, Western, and begun to connect more with people like Natalia and with the WHO to try to make our work more global and connecting to that effort. Baswati referenced this. This is this registry that we have that's now, it's global. If any of you want to know more about it, how you can get your people connected to it, happy to connect you. My last slide is one of those what can you do now slides, and it's an urge that you use appropriate language, as Confucius says. You know, there's good in managing disease. There's good in suppressing symptoms. Neither of those are creating health. A system that manages disease is not a healthcare system. So I urge you to don't give them the language. What's happening, at least in the US, with most of our 3 trillion plus investment each year is not healthcare. It is something else. So that's a little longer than I think I was given, but that's there.
Děkuji za tvůj
I would
příspěvek.
like to thank you for your speech, which described the situation in the US, and it's apparent that you have a lot of experience in this branch. I would like to mention once more our publication, Alternative Medicine in the World, which contains a lot of information, which has indices, and this publication can be also used in your work. And there is also a part related to weird research. There is also interesting information that the NATO has gained a large grant in research which belongs to the top in this area. It originated from the fact that the administration of the NATO found out that more than 50% of the soldiers use these methods, especially in the treatment of after-trauma syndromes. This changed the orientation in this branch, and it finished with a 100 million budget used in this area. One of the aims was to introduce also TCIM methods into healthcare of these professionals, because the benefit coming in these difficult war conditions very important. The other parts of the publication cover the European areas, but still I believe that we will receive a great awareness of the information. What I am following in terms of the project in the US deserves a lot of respect. We can see Chinese medicine, Indian sciences. Here I can see a human experience which is unreplaceable. In different periods, different ideas were the strongest, but we all are humans with experience. I would like to call you real experts in your disciplines. And I would like to mention an activity which crossed my mind during our discussion. What is also an important condition is the presentation of alternative medicine to the public. And here I am offering a possibility. Each of us could, and given extent describe their journey towards TCIM. I believe people would be interested in such a thing. And this should result in a publication collecting the experience of this kind, because this is something which belongs to humans. This is something which is because we all did not approach alternative medicine as scientists. Each of us had a different journey, and this is something which is very valuable. Considering this, when forming the platform, we all met, and I believe others could join in. I believe that would be a thing which could be very helpful. I'm not asking you for any decision. I believe this would be highly beneficial, and I would like to contact you in the future by email, and I would like to ask your opinion on this matter. I can see that you are not frowning too much. So I believe this is not too far from what you expect. Thank you. Thank you for your thumbs up. I'm not sure if anybody of you would like to mention something because the time is up. We only have some 8 minutes. I would like to thank you all. I would like to thank the God to be all together on one planet. I would like to thank for all the obstacles which we are overcoming, because these give us inner strength. We do not do these things for ourselves. So all the losses which we will suffer will not be that large. I wish you all success on your life journeys. Let's stay in contact. Maybe we are connected through a stronger bond than a bond of a relationship, because maybe the meaning of life is something even more important. And I believe that we will all agree with that. It's up to you whether you would like to comment on that. I would like to say something today. It's my younger son's birthday, and I can feel that our platform was born today. And I would like to thank you so much for that. Thank you. I would like to thank you all for your participation. I'm looking forward to the Congress, which will be held in Prague, which I believe will be a beautiful place of the town hall of the capital city of Prague, and you can look forward to very untraditional meeting on a board of a ship where an official dinner will be offered, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you all in person, because the internet still is something different for us than a teenager would understand. Because a personal meeting is something which matters the most. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, Tomas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, very much.
Quite interesting. Good to see you, Baswati.
Good to see you too, John, Madan, Thomas. Thomas, I'm glad you're feeling well now and that you fully recovered. It's nice to see you glowing. And I'm very, very impressed to meet all of you. Thank you all for the healing work that you're all doing.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
We better meet next year. Take care of your health and make sure we all meet. We can have a hug if we're allowed to hug by next year. Thomas, namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you.